Coming up, the aviation world is up in arms over the mistreatment of a glider pilot. We fly a new tail dragger from Tecnam across the U.S. on no fuel. And remembering an aviation legend. AOPA Live this week begins right now. A growing firestorm over the arrest of a 70-year-old glider pilot for flying through a non-existent no-fly zone. Hello everyone, welcome to AOPA Live this week. I'm Tom Haynes. Last week we told you Robin Fleming's story. The glider pilot had done nothing but legally fly near a nuclear power plant in Darlington County, South Carolina. Yet he was ordered to land, arrested, held in jail for more than 24 hours, and charged with, get this, breach of peace in a glider. That video is now played more than 50,000 times. The webpage viewed more than 93,000 times.
But I think what caught people's attention was just this tremendous sort of overreaction to an individual who was flying a sailplane and did a circle around a power plant. We've heard about it from people inside the FAA. We've had a fairly senior member of Congress, in fact a committee chairman, declare in an open room after he recounted the story to people who hadn't seen it.
So he clearly read it.
He had read it, he'd seen the AOPA Live video, and he explained what it involved, thought there should be hearings. So, you know, we have worked steadily and aggressively with TSA, Homeland Security, and other federal organizations when these kinds of things have come up. I think this will provide a little impetus for change.
Also in my interview with Craig yesterday, we talked about what AOPA is doing about this incident.
One of the things that we have campaigned for, if you will, is to make sure that the FAA retains control over airspace kinds of issues. And this story shows what happens when local law enforcement gets a little carried away. But frankly, Homeland Security and the FBI should have known better. I think one of the things we want to reinforce is that airspace violations are taken very seriously, but they have to be charted if there's an airspace issue. It has to be reviewed by the FAA, has to go through an airspace discussion, the likes of which we participate in all the time.
AOPA has another meeting with TSA next week to go over this and other security issues affecting general aviation. Robin Fleming's ordeal lit up the aviation forums, including our own. One AOPA forum member contacted Darlington County Sheriff J. Wayne Byrd, who said that common sense was lacking in the incident. He also conceded that his deputies, the FBI and Homeland Security, were, quote, overzealous in their response. You'll also see that he got Robin Fleming's name wrong. Something else he got wrong? Sheriff Byrd claims he didn't have a chance to, quote, redress the accusations. In fact, we left multiple messages with the Sheriff Department's spokesperson. They never returned our calls. Well, it's always nice when things go better than planned. That's the case for Cessna and the new Grand Caravan EX. Cessna introduced the new model at Oshkosh last year with a Pratt & Whitney PT6A 140 turbine for hot and high operations. During certification testing, Cessna found the Big Bird performed even better than expected, with a rate of climb 38% better than the Grand Caravan. The Grand Caravan EX is among 6 new or upgraded models that Cessna will deliver in 2013. 3 of Cessna's smaller models can now be ordered with a new infrared vision system that can literally turn night into day. A couple of weeks ago, I had the chance to test fly the Max-Viz 600 system out in Wichita. As we've reported, the NTSB has said that it wants general aviation safety to improve. Well, one way to do that is with technology advancements such as this Max-Viz 600 infrared camera system that turns night into day and even during some daylight situations helps pilots maintain better situational awareness. Sensing long-wave infrared energy, the 1.8-pound system is capable of detecting temperature differences as small as 1/10 of a degree Fahrenheit. So it's all about temperature differential between various surfaces, right?
That's correct. This sensor is extremely sensitive. It's looking at the radiated temperature differences between the thousands of different surfaces that you see. It can tell the difference between a grass runway that's made from the same grass as the field next to it, because that grass that's been compacted has a different temperature radiation than the grass that hasn't been.
Cessna is now offering the Max-Viz enhanced vision system on all 172s, 182s, and 206s. Images are shown on the ship's Garmin multifunction display.
Okay. Runway 19 left at Wichita.
We had the chance to fly a new 182 with the system recently in Wichita. It clearly showed the yellow taxiway lines.
You can see the yellow lines are different color, different heat temperature.
We flew a low approach to Riverside Airport in Wichita, with the Max-Viz system clearly showing the runway environment. Obstacles near the runway aren't the only situational awareness aid.
This situational awareness helps you avoid wildlife incursions on the runway when you're taking off. Make sure that there are no deer down the runway away from your landing and takeoff lights. It also enables you to make sure the surface of the runway is clear before you land.
In addition to helping pilots turn night into day, the system can see through light fog, smoke, and precipitation. While it can't see through clouds, it can help pilots maneuver around clouds at night, avoiding inadvertent VFR into IMC. Using a plastic bag, Max-Viz's Lou Churchville demonstrates how the system can see through such material. Viewed on the MFD, the bag seems to disappear like some parlor trick. Churchville says the system has proven popular on Cirrus SR-22s, and he expects similar results at Cessna. The infrared camera is also popular for special mission aircraft.
Helicopter pilots, of course, are always down close to the ground, a lot of them at night, life flights, evacuation flights, and it helps them see at night so they can do their missions more effectively. Firefighters can see the fire through the smoke. The smoke disappears for this camera.
Currently, the Max-Viz 600 can't allow you to fly lower on an instrument approach. The company is working on a means to allow that in the future. The Max-Viz system is a $22,000 option on new single-engine Cessnas. You can retrofit it to late model 172, 182, and 206s for about $30,000. Folks are kicking the tires on something a little smaller right now down in Sebring, Florida. As we put this show together, the Light Sport Aircraft Expo is about to open its gates. It's the first major air show of the year, and it's devoted entirely to the LSA industry. We have our editorial teams down there and look for reports on AOPA.org, ePilot, and in next week's edition of AOPA Live This Week. One of the airplanes folks will be looking at during the Light Sport Aircraft Expo is the new Tecnam P92 tail dragger. It's based on a design that's been flying for a while. AOPA Pilot Senior Editor Al Marsh takes it around the patch.
Tecnam displayed its P92 tail dragger at the Light Sport Airplane Show in Sebring, Florida, but this one is the first P92 to be powered by a Lycoming engine. Tecnam's Phil Solomon said this airplane is just for fun.
High lift wing, and so they're going to have pretty short takeoffs and landings. The engine is going to be something that they feel familiar with. I think the side-by-side seating, I think, is an attractive option for tail dragger pilots, because that's not always what's been on offer. And I think the price is pretty competitive for what they're getting. So they're getting a modern designed aircraft, which is going to be fun. I mean, that's really the word I need to use, is it's fun.
Tail draggers, however, are not for everyone.
That's true, but if you actually look at the sales statistics on where the sales are actually going, they are going predominantly actually to private owners who are buying tail draggers of different types. And that's not just in the US, there's actually quite a lot of evidence of that worldwide. So that's why Tecnam felt, why not?
The airplane sits atop tall gear that is perfect for rough fields. The Rotax version comes with a cargo pod that can carry camping equipment if you are so inclined. During a test flight at Avon Park, Florida, this 118-knot airplane had no trouble at all keeping up with the Cessna 172 photoplane. You'll see the photos in an upcoming issue of AOPA Pilot. Al Marsh, AOPA Live.
Coming up after the break, the FAA thinks pilots and social media don't mix, and one last flight with an aviation legend.
Flight following didn't call out an opposing plane. I saw it on the screen. He turned right and the other plane just pretty much flew right on by. It's your life. You only get one shot at this.
Welcome back to AOPA Live This Week. No updates for your peeps from the cockpit, at least if you're an airline pilot. The FAA has proposed a rule prohibiting texting, tweeting, or the use of any personal electronic device or computer in the cockpit while the aircraft is operating. Meanwhile, the Portable Electronic Devices Aviation Rulemaking Committee, that's quite a mouthful, held its first meeting this week. The group of industry and government experts will advise the FAA on writing new regulations on the use of electronic devices aboard aircraft. Another rulemaking committee just held its final meeting in Florida, and this is going to have a huge impact on general aviation. The General Aviation Manufacturers Association, GAMA, spearheaded an industry effort to completely rework the certification rules for GA aircraft. Not only will these changes reduce the cost of new aircraft, they should also make it easier to add safety and utility enhancements to existing airplanes.
So we're trying to revitalize aviation by bringing in new products and innovation to the existing fleet as well, and make it cost effective so the traditional person that could be part of aviation can come back into the ranks.
AOPA is also part of the committee to rewrite the Part 23 regulations. The committee will issue its final report to the FAA later this spring. Sometime this summer, an experimental aircraft is going to fly across the U.S. without using any avgas. AOPA executive producer Warren Morningstar caught up with the two founders of the Solar Impulse project at the Swiss Embassy in Washington, D.C.
Some call it an impossible dream.
That the limitation to development and evolution is the belief that something is impossible.
But for the Swiss creators of the Solar Impulse, impossible isn't in their vocabulary, in any language.
So when Orville and Wilbur Wright made the first flight with an airplane, nobody thought an airplane could cross the Atlantic. And then Charles Lindbergh crossed the Atlantic, and nobody thought an airplane with 200 passengers could cross the Atlantic. And it was done. And then nobody thought we could go to the moon, and we went to the moon. And actually, it's exactly what we reproduced with Solar Impulse. An airplane that can fly day and night with no fuel, with a pilot on board, is something that seemed to be completely impossible a few years ago before we launched the project with André. And now it's possible.
Sometime in March, the team will disassemble the gangly aircraft and stow it aboard a 747 for a flight to San Francisco. Then in May, the airplane will be reassembled, and the Solar Impulse will take off for Washington, D.C., and ultimately New York, for a record-breaking flight fueled only by the sun.
Because the challenge is to fly during the day, store enough energy to be able to fly through the night, be still in the air the following morning, with the possibility to continue flying many days, many nights.
And will their leisurely route across the U.S. take them to the birthplace of flight?
We will try to overfly Kitty Hawk. it would be a nice symbol. You know, the places where we will land between San Francisco, Washington, and New York will depend on the weather, because the routes will be simulated by our computers, integrating all the weather, air traffic control, wind, sun, and terrain, and so on. And the decision is made quite at the last moment. So maybe destiny will bring us over Kitty Hawk.
And there are some similarities between the pioneering Solar Impulse and that first Wright flyer. We asked Picard and Boschberg to tell us what it's like to fly an aircraft with the wingspan of an Airbus A340 and the weight of a Bonanza.
It's an aircraft which has two personalities. When it's not turbulent, it's extremely fine. It's very gentle. It's pure, and it's a pure moment. When it's turbulent, of course, it feels all the movement of the atmosphere, and it's accepting that you cannot control everything, but still trying to stay in line with what's happening there. And it needs a lot of energy, it needs a lot of concentration, it's very hard work. On the ground, we limit ourselves with maximum 10 knots wind and 5 knots crosswind. So that's developed with the experience we made over time when flying this airplane now in different countries. What we call indicated airspeed is 25 knots and the stall speed is 19 knots.
The cruise altitude depends on the moment of the day, because every morning we're about 5,000 feet, and when we have enough energy we can store this energy also in altitude, not only in the batteries, to climb to 29,000 feet. And then when the sun sets down, then the plane starts to go down again to 5,000 feet. So depending on the moment of the day, we'll have other layers of air traffic control, and this is why it's an interesting coordination to do.
Cruising at some 40 knots, it will take the Solar Impulse some time to work its way across the U.S. this summer. Picard and Borschberg will take turns in the cramped cockpit. Each leg will be about 20 hours.
How do we cope with 20 hours or 25 hours in the cockpit alone flying the plane? I think that's just the result of passion. If you work for 9 years to be able to fly that plane, once you're in the cockpit, you never complain. You're just thankful that life allows you to fulfill the dream, and you fly this plane with fulfillment and pleasure.
At the Swiss Embassy in Washington, D.C., Warren Morningstar, AOPA Live.
What an amazing airplane. You'll be able to follow the progress of the Solar Impulse on their website. The team is working on a new aircraft for their attempt to fly around the world on solar power alone. And finally, we want to take a moment to remember airshow and air race pilot Freddie Cabana. He died Tuesday in an aircraft accident in Cozumel, Mexico. As we record this, we don't yet have any other details. But we'll leave you with some video of Freddie flying his beloved Waco over the Florida Keys. The commanding general of the Conch Republic Air Force will be deeply missed. He's quite a guy. Until next Thursday, I'm Tom Haynes. Thanks for watching.
I like fabric, I like round engines, I like bi-wings. Born and raised in Key West, and I'd watch the PBYs and the PBMs flying out of the Naval Air Station, out of the seaplane base. And when it was a south wind, they'd fly right over my dad's house, and I'm sitting there as a kid just watching these beautiful birds. And I started hanging around the airport when I was about 15, watching airplanes, and finally got to where I could watch enough airplanes to afford to take flying lessons. I soloed in 1971, and it just ain't stopped. Go, go, go. My first flying job was flying in the Caribbean, delivering crop dusters down to Ecuador, Argentina, Chile. I've been all over Central and South America in crop dusters. When I started to learn how to fly, there was an older gentleman named Tony that lived up in Marathon, and we'd fly back at Cessna 150 straight tails. And this old guy was showing me how to do snap rolls with this airplane, and I just never stopped. You know, I think I was 17 years old, and on my first solo, I did a snap roll, you know. And you ask what I like about aviation in my life, is turning people on to aviation. The fun part is meeting people. Well, the aerobatics, you know, I mean, where else can you get paid to do a roll on takeoff? When it becomes a job, I don't want to do it anymore, but you get to fly the most beautiful place in the world, Key West. You see sharks, you see stingrays, you see manatees. But I don't think I'm ever going to get tired of it. You know, I still enjoy going cross country, not knowing where you're going to land for dinner or spend the night. I ferry a lot of pits back and forth to Canada for my friends. And I just go 500 miles, okay, I'm going to land here. As long as it's not a dry county. Got to have beer when you land the airplane when you're done for the day.